Hello, welcome to SF Indie Fest. My name is Eric Jambor. I'm one of the features programmers, and I am thrilled to be here to host a conversation for I'm a Stranger Here myself with writer-director Kevin Luna. Thank you for joining us, Kevin.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I'm always interested in who filmmakers are in real life. Can you tell us a little bit about your background, where you came from, where you grew up, what got you into film, and what's your day job?
Yeah, so I am originally from the Bay Area, and went to art school there, like for film, to CCA, RIP. Recently, like read that it's closing down. Um, After graduating from art school, I moved to Stockholm, Sweden, and lived there for 8 years and kind of just bummed around for way too long, and then moved to Los Angeles, and started a family and trying to be responsible. But I got into film just kind of as a teenager, filming, skateboarding, like many other people my age, I feel like, and I got into writing and writing short stories and whatnot, and kind of just everything kind of just spun from there, getting into culture and whatnot. Um, yeah, my day job. Right now, I work as like a freelance editor for the most part, which is pretty rocky. It's
Hmm.
up and down, but it's
It's,
okay.
it sounds like these days it's particularly tough.
Yeah, it can. I mean, yeah, it can be tough when the jobs dry up. It can get tough and uncertain. I mean, I think freelance is always kind of like that, but these days it's the droughts get pretty extreme, or they can. So
What sort of work are you cutting? Are you in doing features or narrative work or commercials?
no, I mean my cutting my own work, but for money, it's a lot of yeah, commercials, social media stuff, just whatever pays.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, cool.
things where I can't mention the client because of NDAs and whatnot, and I don't want to mention the client. I'm
Nice,
ashamed to
nice.
mention the client. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Um, well, so how did this project come together? You've got your trying to make a living out there in LA, and then having the idea for this feature. Where did the idea come from, and how did that process work? How'd you pull it all together?
Yeah, so it was a kind of a roundabout way of that this feature came to be. I wanted to make a feature like this for a while. I like had thought about like it would be cool to make a feature with a lot of sort of disconnected storylines, like, building off of each other. Um, and I would always kind of try to write an outline with that concept, and I'd always fail. I'd always kind of give in to the temptation of connecting the storylines, then I'd be unhappy with it and let it go. And then around 2022, kind of COVID had just stopped, and my uh, older kid had just started preschool, and I suddenly had some time, and I started to kind of just write episodes of like anthology series, or what I thought would be an anthology series. The concept for the series was just that like every episode was very slowly paced, and you would prompt the audience to not watch it. In the beginning, you'd say just like, "Hey, like you don't have to. You could just keep looking at your phone." And the idea was that these kind of slow ambient episodes would unfold, and the viewer would kind of catch the narrative, the eventual like plot, sort of peripherally. So I was writing these kind of slow episodes, and just sort of, I think, maybe reflecting of living in LA and trying to understand what LA is, because I at the time I'd lived here for a few years, but it had been during COVID and whatnot, so it was a weird experience. So anyway, I'd kind of got together. I'd written maybe 8 or 9 of these episodes, and couple years, like a year or so passed, and I just was getting a little antsy. I hadn't shot anything for a while, so I decided to just make a run at it and self-produce a few of them, a handful of them, see what happened. So we shot this film as a series to begin with, and I edited them as such. And then after I'd finished that, my producer was like, "That's great. You should turn it into a feature." And I was like, "No, I can't do that, and I don't want to do that." And he was like, "No, you should. Just because what are we going to do with like a self-produced series?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know." So I spent like a week kind of going crazy and cutting it together into a feature and thinking it wasn't going to work. And then I went over to his house and we watched it with a couple people. And there was it was rough at that point, but there was something there. It was a big surprise. And so that's kind of how this feature came to be.
Nice, nice. Yeah, the pacing really worked well for me. I kind of found sometimes uh, some of the scenes would hang a little bit longer than you expected, just a couple beats longer, and many of the scenes didn't resolve, and I felt it left me as a viewer thinking more about it than if it had resolved. Um, and I kind of I kind of left thinking you could just keep making these, you could keep releasing these features with these sorts of stories and never repeat the same characters. But yeah, I found it very, very engaging. Um, were all of were all of the scenes that you shot from the initial batch that you had written, or did new things come up as you filmed them?
Um, it's a good question. The majority of them I think were from kind of the initial batch. I think there was one one or two I kind of wrote, not after I'd filmed, but like kind of after I filmed one pretty early on, just like as like a test. I filmed that one and I don't remember, I get the years mixed up now, but probably like some 2022 or something like that. And then kind of sat on that for a while, just like thinking what to do. And I think in between that initial one and then like maybe a year had passed to shoot the rest of them, I wrote a couple more or just sort of like updated some of the scripts to like better reflect what LA was feeling like at the time. I felt like when I started to write these scripts in 2022, I felt like there was more of a fascination with like wealth in a way. And maybe that had something to do with just before the inflation crash and whatnot and the economy getting really bad. It felt like people sort of had money and were kind of um, curious about like how long that would last. And by the time we shot, things were kind of getting worse. So I was kind of trying to adjust to that feeling of like, you know, things are still bad. Like there was a weird illusion of having money that didn't pan out.
Yeah, LA you always or often think of as being so glitzy and plastic, and so many of the streaming shows I watch seem to be about rich people with lots of money. So it was really I found to be very engaging to just be with regular working people, living their life. Um, where did you get your cast from? Were they people you knew or people that you actually cast for those roles?
It was kind of all of the above, I guess. Some of the roles I casted, when I think casted one role through Backstage, or no, two roles through Backstage. I just like kind of went through different, actors' profiles and kind of reached out to them directly. And then the rest of them were either friends, people who were already working on the film, or friends of, actors who, maybe a producer knew and could put us in touch with. So it was, yeah, a mix, but mostly people that I knew, or at least were kind of in my personal network, I guess.
Yeah, and then your technique of working with them, was it, was it tightly scripted, or did you have let them improv or be a little bit more free as you were shooting?
They're pretty scripted. I'd say like 95%. It was following the script.
Yeah.
I well, if actors want to kind of improv or go off a little bit, like I'm not opposed to it. But what I found is that like because past work, I've sort of asked actors to improv a lot more, or like make a film just kind of based on an outline, let them figure it out. And I sort of found that like letting them have a script they can be a little more comfortable and maybe find some of the improv with having a script. The dialogue is pretty scripted, but I'm not like it doesn't need to be word for word with
Yeah,
actors. They can find their way of saying it.
cool. Uh, so I do have some questions in terms of the some of the scenes. I do have to ask, uh, who who turned on, who made coffee? Is that an answerable thing for you, or what happened to the keys? Because I kept thinking
hmm
someone was, maybe coming in, as they maybe thought at one
hmm
point. Do you have an answer to that?
Um, I have a vague answer to that. Yeah, there was another script that didn't directly answer that question, but maybe kind of spiritually answered that question. And we didn't shoot that script, so it will be a mystery. We got some like early feedback when we had turned this into a feature. And we were still thinking about maybe going and shooting that script, and we got some feedback that was basically just like, why would you ruin like a really nice mystery? So we didn't end up answering that question. But yeah, there's a vague answer in my head for
Yeah, I
it.
think, like I mentioned before, by not answering it, you leave the audience thinking of it as they exit the theater. So thought that was a cool idea. Is that something that happened like in real life in terms of no one fessing up to who made the coffee?
No, no, it didn't actually. I'm trying to think of where that came from. I don't really remember where that came from in terms of writing it when I think about it now. It wasn't based on anything. It was just kind of a something from somewhere else kind of came into me. A little detail that sort of just popped into my head.
Yeah, cool. Um, what about the music? I thought that was very effective too. It kind of fit in with that ambient feeling that you mentioned with the scenes. Where did that come from?
So that was Corbin did the score, and Matt, my producer, put me in touch with him. Kind of a funny story. Like originally, Matt and his brother were thinking about doing the score for this film. I mean, because like we had this, we had the film basically edited, and I had a lot of temp score in there, so we needed to figure out what the score was going to be. And so Matt contacted Corbin to ask him if he could record at Corbin's space, and then Corbin was kind of like, well, why don't I just do the score? And then Matt and his brother realized they were both really busy, so they were like, "Oh yeah, you should do the score." And then so Matt then sent me Corbin's stuff, and I listened to some of his stuff, and he does a lot of really really nice sounding stuff, and I felt like it would work. So I went over to his place and showed him the film, and we just kind of talked through some things. And he said he would do some just kind of rough demos, and he sent those over to me, and I sort of placed them, and then they felt really good. So I was it just like somehow worked like without sort of that score I think is a bit mysterious as well, or it can be in a way because it's not entirely like a traditional movie score. Some of it can feel kind of out there, and I think Corbin was thinking he was going to do some more, kind of refine things more, but it felt really pretty nice as it was. So I kind of let it be, and I think he touched a couple things up, but he sort of used the his demo for it.
Nice. It's nice when it comes together that simply, or that automatically almost.
We were in like a rush for some reason. I don't remember why we were in a rush. I was like feeling really rushed. Like I needed the score to work like within a week for we were gonna have like a test screening. I just wanted there to be something there. And um, but yeah, so then it worked out in the end.
It's great. Uh, Yeah, so I guess it's kind of weird doing these virtual pre-recorded sessions. We can't really start pulling in questions from the audience, which is what I would start to do. But you mentioned this is your world premiere with us, so congrats. We're thrilled to have that with SF Indie Fest. Can you tell us what you're doing next with the film? What are the plans for the future with it?
I mean, we're out to some more festivals. We'll see if we can take this on a little festival run. Other than that, I really don't know. I mean, the state of independent film, at least American independent film, feels really precarious right now, and it like almost feels like it doesn't exist in a good way and a bad way. So um, it's I think we'll try to put on some screenings if after the festival run is done, do some screenings ourselves. And I think like I mean this seems to be the big question. You meet people here in LA and talk about like what's going to happen, like how is film ever going to come back, or people don't go see movies anymore. It's not that fun to watch everything on your phone. So um, I don't know. I think it's a big question mark for me, but also in kind of a good way. I can kind of start to imagine like what could things be, or how could film come back in a relevant way, or as a mass medium. How could independent film come back like in a culturally relevant way? But I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah. Are you that are you on to the next project already, or are you just focusing on taking this out to out on the
Um,
road?
I've I've got a script. I'm almost through another feature script, and then I've got a handful of other ideas. But they're all pretty early in development right now. So
Cool. We'll look forward to seeing what comes about with all those and where this film ends up going next. If people want to keep in touch with you and what's up with the film next, do you have a website or any social media accounts people can
Hmm.
follow?
Yeah, my website is www.dreamtrash.com. And my Instagram is Dream Trash Films. So you can find me there, or find my email somewhere on the internet. Send me an email.
Cool. Well, thanks again for doing this, and we will see you at the festival.
Thank you. Thanks so much. It was nice to talk to you.
You bet. You too.